The anime takes an unexpected start when a girl named Rui Takabana and a boy named Natsuo Fujii both lose their virginities after having their first sexual experience in a one-night stand. After this happens, Natsuo immediately runs to his best friend named Fumiya Kiramoto and tells him all about how he lost his virginity despite being in love with another girl who is a high school English teacher named Hina Takabana. Natsuo reveals the backstory that he gets invited to a mixer along with his classmates, more like a group date where he encounters the girl Rui, who is a high school student. However, Natsuo finds her quite odd, and so he asks her about it. While they are having a conversation, Rui discloses that she has always been indifferent, since the two of them seem uninterested in the group date. Rui asks him to sneak out with her and do her a favor. While they head out, Rui keeps walking and Fujii has no idea where she is taking him. To his surprise, it turns out to be Rui's house and she takes him to her room, telling him that the house is empty. As she settles down in the bed, she abruptly requests him to get romantically involved with her just to experience it so that her friends won't call her a clueless child. Our flustered protagonist reveals that he has no experience in this stuff and questions her why she didn't ask other classmates to do it with her. Somehow, he reluctantly agrees to it and assumes that it might help him forget his unreciprocated love for his teacher Hina. After this unwanted act, they leave the house and Rui proclaims that they will act as strangers from now on as this experience didn't change her in any way, and they part ways. Switching to the main plot the next day, Natsuo appears to be on the school roof when his teacher Hina joins him and pleads with him to let him read his incomplete novel, as Natsuo wishes to be a novelist. It is revealed to us that Natsuo and Hina have known each other for the past year. While there, Natsuo assumes that her teacher might be worried about something, and that's why she came here all by herself. Listening to this, Hina notifies him not to be late for class and leaves. Later, Natsuo goes home and gets reminded of Rui and gets rid of the thought quickly. As our main character goes to the school roof, he finds his teacher Hina crying by the fence. However, she ignores it with an obvious evasion and tells him that grown-ups have their problems to deal with. Upon this, Natsuo gets angry and tells her not to treat her like a child. Later, he gets home and gets interrupted by his father Akito Fujii, who informs him about his sudden remarriage and further tells him that the guests are arriving soon. As our poor protagonist seems troubled hence to add more to his plate, the guests arrive and turn out to be Hina and Rui Takabana, who are sisters, appear on his doorstep along with their mother Takiko Takabana, the remarriage partner of Natsuo's father, who has been dating him for quite a long time. Hina gets elated to see her student, however, Natsuo's world seems to get upside down. As both of the families seem to be getting along, Rui waits up for Natsuo outside the washroom and explains that her father cheated on his mother, but after meeting Mr. Fujii, she's always in good spirits and seems to enjoy her life. Rui further clarifies that she doesn't want to take away her mother's happiness because of a foolish thing that happened between them, so she will let her mother remarry. As the Takabana family leave, Natsuo's father informs him about moving to a new house next week following the marriage. Soon after all this happens, Natsuo rushes to Fumiya spilling about his father's marriage, on which he gets shocked as he soon will become a stepbrother to a girl he had sex with and his teacher, who he has a crush on. As things seem to be complicated, Natsuo and his father move to their new house, followed by the Takabana family. Additionally, when Natsuo visits the house, he spots Hina, who seems to be happy living under the same roof. While they talk, she becomes excited to be his younger brother and teases him about sneaking into his room to search for his naughty stuff, which makes our protagonist filled with embarrassment. Later, as everyone goes to bed after dinner, Hina appears after taking a bath in a short dress, making Natsuo flustered. While she sleeps on the couch, our main lead decides to end his long-term crush on his teacher with a kiss. The moment he tries to kiss her, Rui appears in the room, stumbling into an awkward situation. While Natsuo tries to fall asleep, he thinks of Rui witnessing him trying to kiss his sister. Meanwhile, we are traversed through a flashback in which Rui catches Natsuo as he appears close to Hina. She kicks her sister off the couch, dragging her into the room, saying that it is China's fault for letting her guard down. After this happens, the next day our main character goes to school and his classmates discuss the new girl who had been transferred recently. His classmates' forces drag him to see the girl. Unfortunately, it turns out to be his stepsister Rue, therefore she approaches him making fun of his messy hair and talks about the lunch their mother packed. Abruptly, Natsuo shuts her up, yanking her outside the class. As the two talk outside, Rue tells her that she had to transfer schools because of the long-distance commute to her other school. However, Fuji informs her not to disclose their relationship as siblings. Hearing this, Rue takes it the wrong way, assuming that he is ashamed of their relationship and leaves. Soon after that, Natsuo's friends grab him and ask him about his relationship with Rue. To avoid the situation, he goes to the washroom and speculates if he had offended Rue. On his way back to the class, he bumps into his teacher Hina, also his stepsister. She fixes his messy hair right away, making our protagonist blush. Furthermore, Natsuo asks her if she remembers something from the last night, to which Hina reacts shockingly and whispers to him if they had kissed last night while she was drunk, but Natsuo refuses immediately. Later, he looks for Rue during lunchtime and notices that she has been sitting alone. Our diligent protagonist approaches and asks her why she hasn't made friends yet, as she seemed crowded with people earlier, to which Rue answers that she finds interest in no one as she seemed to have a boring personality to them, and also reveals that her sister Hina makes friends effortlessly. However, Natsuo decides to give her classes and help her make friends as he thinks that Rue is socially awkward. As Natsuo makes an effort to help Rue, they end up staging an argument and bickering like siblings. Meanwhile, her classmates witness her true personality, asking her to be friends with her. Later at home, as Natsuo takes his clothes off to take a bath, he catches a glimpse of Rue sitting in the bathtub and quickly gets out of there. Despite being in a bathtub, Rue appreciates him for helping her make friends and invites him to have a talk with her for a moment. He decides to go inside, and Rue asks him if he was kissing her sister to cheer her up. Therefore, Natsuo gets a hunch that Hina is having a difficult time. Further, he asks Rue to tell him the truth about Hina, but she doesn't answer him as Natsuo is unaware of her situation and gets out of the tub. The next morning, as all of them settle on the table, Natsuo's father Akiko and Tsukiko announce that they are going to register their marriage and leave Hina in charge as she is the eldest. Still, her mother asks Rue to assist her sister as she doesn't trust Hina with her drinking problems. The following day, the dinner table is set with delicious foods made by Rue and Hina. As Natsuo takes a bite, he is amazed by the delicious taste and praises China for her brilliant cooking skills. However, it turns out that the food was prepared by Rue and Hina made the salad, making our poor main lead feel miserable. As they are having drinks, Natsuo and Hina get to spend some cute moments together until they are disturbed by a phone call made by Hina's boyfriend, who calls him outside. As Hina heads out, she tells Natsuo not to follow her, and he waits for her for 20 minutes until she comes back. Eventually, Hina comes inside the house and she appears to be gloomy. Natsuo holds her and asks her what the problem is. Thus, Hina decides to open up about her boyfriend, and as she does, they are interrupted by Rue, who appears from behind, opening the door for her parents. Hina hides her pain and congratulates her parents on their marriage, and they all head inside. At night, Natsuo seems to have trouble sleeping as he keeps thinking about Hina as her relationship seems complicated. However, the next day, Natsuo visits his friend Fumiya again, who works part-time in a bar and is the best advisor to his friend. In addition, Natsuo tells everything that happened last night and seems upset about her relationship with her boyfriend, on which one of Fumiya's friends advises him that he should have kissed her deeply. Yet Fumiya suggests listening to adult advice and assumes that Natsuo is feeling jealous and reveals that he had been going through the same thing. While they talk about jealousy, the three of them stage a fictional act, making a bizarre caught-in-act scene. After that, Fumiya and Natsuo head out, hence while walking they witness Hina and her boyfriend. The following night, Natsuo couldn't tolerate his curiosity and barges into Hina's room. Our jealous main lead asks her to break up with her boyfriend and ends up kissing her, as encouraged by his friend at the bar. However, Hina slaps his face but helplessly kisses him back out of frustration, pushing him onto the bed, and as their eyes meet, she responds to him that Natsuo is still a child and tells him not to interfere with her life matters. Hina instantly regrets what she did with her stepbrother, and Natsuo breaks down into tears. The next morning, Natsuo's father Aikido causes chaos as he finds his son's letter disclosing that he has left the house, making all the family members worried about him. It is revealed to us that Natsuo is living at Fumiya's house, and as Fumiya comes early from his part-time job, they start fighting over the teacher just to buckle up his friend and advise him to continue writing his novel. Thereafter, Natsuo starts writing a novel and stands by the window as it's raining. Thereupon, he spots Rui outside searching for his friend's house and finally meets with him. She asks Natsuo to stay with him at a friend's house instead of calling him back home. As Rue makes herself at home, Fumiya gets furious at Natsuo for bringing a freeloader. After that, Rue reveals that she is boycotting her sister and wants her strong and cheerful sister back until Fumiya comes up with a plan to solve both of their problems. After discussing it, they decide to break up Hina's relationship. The next day, Natsuo comes home along with Rue after 2 days, meeting with his father, who had divorce papers in his hand, as he assumes that his son was not happy with his remarriage. As soon as Hina watches Natsuo come home, she breaks down into tears. Regardless, the next day, our main lead ignores Hina and whispers to Rue to carry out the plans as scheduled. Likewise, Natsuo and Rue scout on Hina as they both decide to follow her after school. First, she goes to a bar and then watches the show all by herself, and it seems that she enjoyed her time alone. After some days of scouting, both the step-siblings failed to find the guy Hina was in a relationship with. They decide to resort to the last part of their plan, which was taking Hina's phone in her absence to call her boyfriend, warning her to break up with her, but Rue seemed to have bad communication skills, and therefore she fails to get the job done and hangs up the call. After failing the mission, Natsuo and Rue arrive at his friend's bar and rant about everything that has happened. As they are talking, they witness Hina along with a man steps in the bar, and everyone goes silent. Our jealous protagonist loses his cool and heads straight to the guy grabbing his collar. To make things better, they decide to talk things out. The guy introduces himself as Shu Hajiwara, revealing about his marriage and for how long he has been dating Hina. Both the siblings don't seem delighted by him and explain to him that he is being unfair to both his wife and Hina. Upon this, Shu confesses that he still likes Hina, disclosing that soon he will divorce his wife to be with Hina. Natsuo isn't satisfied, and in the meantime, Rue picks a glass of water and throws it at Shu's face and storms out with her stepbrother. After running for a long time, she finally stops and Natsuo tries to catch his breath as he has been running behind her. Rue cries out of frustration and her brother comforts her by giving a hug. On the other hand, Hajiwara and Hina walk together silently, yet Shu decides to break the silence and he makes Hina aware of the fact that Natsuo has feelings for her. The next day, Natsuo goes to visit his mother's grave and both his stepsisters decide to follow him so they can understand each other better as a family. Finally, Hina reveals to the both of them that she has broken up with Hajiwara and now she is no longer in a relationship. While there, the Fuji Tachibana siblings have a conversation with Natsuo's mom and introduce each other. The next day, Rue is approached by one of her classmates, a girl named Momo Kashiwamura. Rue, being an introvert, hesitates but eventually opens up to her. Momo gives her a handmade gift. At lunchtime, while Rue is having her lunch, some of her classmates approach her and notice the doll in her hand given by Momo. Upon witnessing the doll, one of the girls tosses it in the trash can and warns Rue to stay away from her as she seduces boys. Despite all of this, Rue grabs the doll out of the trash and tells everyone to mind their own business as it's her choice who she's gonna be friends with. A few days later, both Rue and Momo are going to the library together, and there they come across Natsuo, where Momo and the main lead exchange names, and Momo seems to fall for her friend's stepbrother right away. While the three of them cross the road, Natsuo saves Momo from getting hit by a vehicle, making Momo fall for him harder. Later on, Rue and Momo part ways with Natsuo, and Momo asks Rue if her stepbrother is single, to which she answers that it's okay to fall for him and that it doesn't matter to her. Subsequently, as Rue gets home and takes a bath, unexpectedly she falls sick. On the other hand, Momo asks Natsuo out and asks him out on a date after school. When Natsuo returns home, he looks after his sick sister Rue since there was no one in the house. Out of curiosity, Rue asks Natsuo if Momo asked him out or not, upon which he tells her she can't leave her like that. The next day, their father appears extremely happy seeing the siblings get along so well. Similarly, the next day, Natsuo goes to school and witnesses Momo appearing his way and explains to her that he was busy so he couldn't make it. Natsuo's classmate, who witnesses all of this, warns him about Momo and her bad character. Besides ignoring whenever his classmates notify him about Momo, Natsuo and Momo both spend some time together and Momo invites him over to her house. As things were getting romantic between the two of them, Natsuo realizes that he shouldn't do this, and instead he makes Momo a nice meal since she told him her parents never got along and would always fight. In the school, Natsuo sits at his usual space on the school roof, and while writing he sights someone sitting across him. It turns out to be his literature teacher and literature club advisor Reiji Kiriya, smoking on the roof. However, Kiriya approaches him and asks him about his favorite author after seeing Natsuo's interest in novels. Heading back to the school, Rue bumps into Natsuo at the right time and asks him for a favor to take a look around at school clubs and help her join them. Furthermore, Rue tells him that Momo was happy as he made her yaki udon, appearing to be jealous as Rue was all by herself that day. After school, Natsuo tells his friends Yuya and Kazushi about going to the school club with Rue, and both insist on going with them to peek at the girls' club. Eventually, Rue and Natsuo barge into the literature club, and even though it's empty, our main lead borrows a book from there without permission, thinking that he would return after reading. Later, he comes back to the club to return to the book. Meanwhile, he stealthily sneaks to keep the book back. He witnesses his teacher Kiriya and a student named Ashihara being romantic, and as he tries to escape, Kiriya points him out, creating an embarrassing situation. Taking it the wrong way, Ashihara clarifies the situation and Kiriya accuses him of stealing the book. To make this up, Kiriya threatens to report him if he doesn't join the club. In addition to that, Kiriya informs Natsuo that he will be sending out flyers along with Ashihara. Heading outside to distribute the flyers, Ashihara expresses her happiness as Natsuo is the first member of the literature group. Thereon, while Natsuo is done giving out flyers, he goes to check on Ashihara and helps her out with her flyers as she couldn't seem to do it. Later, he encounters Rue and tells her about the literature club. In the meantime, Kiriya appears from behind, confirming the membership of the club. The next day, Natsuo opens his locker and finds a note, assuming it to be a love letter. It turns out to be a note by Kiriya notifying him about the club activities. As Natsuo and Ashihara appear in the literature club accompanied by Kiriya, he gets to know about their interest in romance novels and suddenly instructs them to kiss each other. However, our main lead refuses as he witnesses tears well in Ashihara's eyes and stops. Despite Natsuo and Mui being the only club members, they begin passing notes in the library, constructing a friendship bond. Watching Natsuo and Ashihara close together, Rue and Momo decide to join the literature club right away. On the weekend, Hina asks Natsuo if they could go out together, and he agrees instantly.